Welcome to Cage Minds Uncensored. I'm your host, Micah Frankel. Shout out to Mac10, that's MMACK10. They give some support, give them support. Check them out on Facebook. We have a big week of action coming up. I mean, nationally, locally, got MMA, got kickboxing. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. This week, we have locally, it's a happy fight week for JacksonWInk Fight Night 2 at his Letter Resort and Casino on Friday night. That's December 1st. We have 3 guests from that event going to be here this week. You have Jesus Urbina, who's going to be in the main event against Demasio Page. We have Clovis's Harvey PArk joining us, who's going to be on the main card. And then from the amateur side of the card, we have Vaiza joining us. So a lot to talk about coming up. And we're going to start off with the UFC. It might have been a holiday for all of us, but they take no holidays. They even make history and break ground. First time in Shanghai, China, mainland China for the first time, UFC Fight Night 122. And the event is kind of controversial in the end. I mean, a big win for Kelvin Gastelum, who was able to slip the right hand of Michael Bisping, measured with his right hand, connect with the big left hook, follow up ground and pound for the knockout. A big win for Gastelum. But should Michael Bisping have even been in that place, in that fight? 3 weeks ago, he got beat up by GSP, lost the middleweight title, obviously wanted to brush his shoulders off. He got the call from the UFC to take this fight, and he took the fight. I don't like the character that Michael Bisping is, but you can respect the fighter. But why did the UFC even call Michael Bisping? You'd figure after being in a fight like that, like he had with GSP at UFC 217, there would at least be 30 days no contact. This was 3 weeks ago. The UFC doctors cleared Michael Bisping, but obviously from his performance and from the way Gastelum was able to wax him so easily, it appears that that was wrong. That was the wrong thing to do. How was he able to be cleared? Well, it wasn't a third-party doctor. Again, these were the UFC doctors. They work for the UFC. The UFC needed Bisping to be cleared because they lost Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was the huge name, was that iconic name, that was the sales point, that was big enough to draw the crowd for the UFC to break into mainland China, to break into Shanghai, to get that event. So they needed to follow it up with another big name right. Luke Rockhold, in my opinion, should have taken that fight, should have been that name. But who knows what kind of condition he's in. And we saw the last time what happened to him. Bisping on a short notice fight. Bisping obviously felt good about wanting to get back in there. Felt that he had the best camp of his life and was fighting the best he ever had. On the contrary, I don't believe so. But it still just amazes me after getting knocked down like he was against GSP and getting choked out like he did, how he could have been cleared so quickly. This was obviously detrimental, but you can't even talk about the long term of his career because he himself has said he wants to retire in March in London, which I now would say that would be up in the air because can he really be cleared again to fight here in 120 days? What kind of training camp could you put together? He needs to be sidelined at least 60 days, maybe 90 days, no contact after having been knocked down and then knocked out now, having been beat up twice in 3 weeks. Michael Bisping stepped up and towed that company line for the UFC once again, and the UFC did him a disservice. The UFC, maybe financially they did right by Michael Bisping, but they didn't give him an opportunity to win. They didn't place him in the best place to win. And it almost seemed like a foregone conclusion when during the card, Dan Hardy's talking about a loss here would almost take the pressure off of Bisping from a big fight in that retirement fight. It looks like the UFC already seems to be leaning towards Lyoto Machida versus Michael Bisping for the retirement fight. That could be a good fight. I do give Bisping the advantage in that fight. I think Vitor Belfort might be a more suitable fight, get another rivalry out of Michael Bisping. Nate Marquardt, I guess, would be a third option if nothing else comes up. But there's a bigger point here that you have to look at the UFC and the medical staff, how they cleared Michael Bisping and did him a disservice in this fight. That is kind of scary, what they would do to keep an event going. Because I can't see any other circumstances. If this was a middle of the card bout, that a guy would jump over 3 weeks after a loss, after having been hit with concussive blows, that you would see him right back in the octagon again. Kelvin Gastelum, it is a big win. Dan Hardy, who was commentating that night, wanted to make this such a big win that it jumps Kelvin Gastelum in the title contention. And they were even, the UFC, and the way they were telling the story for this fight, were trying to set it up with that narrative. I don't see it that way. I see Bisping as having been exposed. He's lost 2 in a row. He drops pretty far down in that top 10. But Kelvin Gastelum does not jump ahead of. You still have GSP having the title. You have Whitaker having the interim title. Rockhold, Romero, Jacare, Brunson, and then you finally have Gastelum, who then has jumped over Bisping and Anderson Silva to sustain top 7. You have a really deep, really good middleweight division. That's what I see. How this shakes everything up, well, Kelvin Gastelum, Derek Brunson, that sounds like the fight I want to see them make. I would also be in favor. Now you put together Jacare versus Chris Weidman, and quite possibly Rockhold ends up being the one to fight Robert Whitaker if GSP is pulling out of the middleweight division and making a mockery of signing the contract the first time that said he would man up and fight Robert Whitaker if he beat Michael Bisping. The UFC broke ground. You also saw Li Jingliang with a big left hook, then right hand, smoke Zach Ottawa. Jingliang on a 4-fight win streak. Wang Guang, impressive striking in taking a split decision win that I thought was unanimous over Alex Caceres. Alex Garcia, he may have turned a corner. He may be putting together those TriStar strategies into full effect, using his grappling and his striking to set up the grappling, getting the second round submission of Muslim Sakayev. And Sakayev, now kind of a disappointing debut from what people expected of him. Zabit Magomed Sharapov calls out Yair Rodriguez following an anaconda choke of Shaman Moraes. And I like Magomed Sharapov. He has a complete game, some awkward striking, creativity, length, Greco-Roman wrestling, and some wicked front chokes. Song Kyan with a 15-second TKO, a big right hand, defeats Bobby Nash in an event that saw a lot of fighters who had stopped by the Albuquerque area for some training. Li Jingliang, along with the Chinese top team, had been here at the JacksonWInk Academy. So had Song Kyan. So had actually the person who defeated Bobby Nash, who had also spent time at Fit NHB. A lot of Albuquerque influences, also with Song Yadong and Bharat Kandari, both each had their training camps down here at some point in the last year. Sindong with a first round front choke submission victory. Shamil Abdurrahimov, more than a wrestler, proves to have some striking, puts hands on Chase Sherman, gets an early knockout for Chase Sherman, who had been on a roll. Also does a lot of training here at the JacksonWInk Academy. For the first time ever, the UFC was in mainland China, in Shanghai, and this show was ran incredibly well. I still don't love on Fight Pass that you have to go from prelims to the main card. Makes no sense at all. Just have it as the event. But what did make a lot of sense was the runtime. 7 fights in 2.5 hours in the prelims. They kind of then strung out the Magomed Sharapov versus Moraes fight, but the UFC put together this 12-fight card, a 12-fight card by the UFC that ran in about 5 hours' time. That has got to be the standard. That was amazing. That was a beautiful job. That is how the UFC should run all events. It was excellent. We're talking about, what do we have? 8 stoppages, I believe. 4 decisions. And you do that, a 12-fight card, in 5 hours. It was so beautiful to see. It was so great. We have a lot to talk about coming up this week. Again, it is fight week. JacksonWInk Fight Night 2 at Isleta Resort and Casino this Friday night. Joined right now by Jesus Urbina. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Out here in Sacramento, and I'm training with Team Alpha Male for this camp, and I'm feeling good.
I heard getting out there to Sacramento, this was like a dream of yours.
It was. I mean, every fighter dreams of like training with these like top-notch gyms, and Alpha Male for me was always like top of the list for me because I admired Uriah Faber ever since I first started in this sport. So, being able to train with him has been like a dream come true to me.
Have you gotten some one-on-one time with Uriah?
Yes, I have.
So what has that been? What's that been like for you?
It's like, have you ever had something happen to you where, everything's going perfect, like picture perfect, to the point where you just have to like pinch yourself to see if you're dreaming or not. It's one of those moments for me, Like, I wake up and I like literally take cold showers just to make sure, I'm up. Because sometimes I don't even believe it myself. So, yeah, it's one of those things.
Being from 10th Planet out there in El Paso, how'd you get connected with Team Alpha Male?
I just hit them up online, and they knew who I was, and they were willing to work with me, so I came out here.
Awesome. And how many weeks have you spent out there in Sacramento?
4. It's going to be my 4th week.
And then heading into fight week here coming up, heading into the fight, who's going to be cornering you? Who's going to be with you this week?
Well, my teammates over at 10th Planet, I would have trained with them this time around, but we all have different lives to live, and we all have different things going on right now. So I had to come to Team Alpha Male. It was a must for me, this camp around. It was the biggest fight of my life, and I just can't wait around and accommodate other people's schedules while I'm training for this fight. So it was important for me to move out here.
I'm hearing for this one, Jesus found it was time to be kind of selfish, kind of focus on yourself.
Yes, in a way you can say that. But like I said, this is my career, and at the end of the day, when that age closes, it's just me in there. So I have to do everything possible to make sure I get every advantage I can possibly get, especially fighting these tough opponents. I like to fight in Albuquerque. I always fight these tough opponents, and I love to. I love the challenge. But in order for me to be able to compete with them, I've got to train with who I feel is the best, So that's all I really got to say about that.
And right now it looks like you're trying to end a 2-fight skid. Back-to-back split decision losses. What are your thoughts on the last 2 fights? They've been close ones.
Well, you see, I like the fact that people know me as a grappler. I am a pretty, I'm good at grappling. But I guess I've been trying to focus more on striking. And I feel like I've won these 2 fights. I don't feel like I lost them at all. I'm just a dude from El Paso that goes out of town and fight these hometown guys. And unfortunately, I can't get the finish. And when I don't get the finish, I feel like I'm gonna lose a decision. That's how I feel. Because I go out there, I push the pace, I control the center of the ring, and these guys, all they have to do is try. I feel like all they have to do is try and survive with me, and they get the win. And thus far, that's what's been happening these last 2 fights.
You're to a point right now in your career where you feel like you're on the level, but a lot of what happening, I guess we'd say, was more on the political level then?
Yes, that's how I feel about that.
We've seen you prior, though, to these two setbacks, these two split decisions, I think it was 7 out of 8 you won besides these two?
My record is 8-5. I have one stoppage loss. Another ones have been decisions. And some of these decisions I completely disagree with. Like my first fight, for instance, right? And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It is what it is, and I'm not going to dwell on it. You have to grow as an MMA fighter and just move past it. But since we're touching up on this point, like my first fight, right, my first pro fight, I took it on 2 weeks' notice. I went up to 135 pounds, and I fought a dude, what was his name? Adrian Cruz. I fought Adrian Cruz, who didn't even make 135. It's 2 pounds over and was asking me for a break. I'm like, dude, you gave, I've been taking this fight 2 weeks notice. I'm like, whatever. Anyways, they gave him the 2 pounds, right? And then we went decision. I dropped him like 2 times in that fight. Ended the second round with me getting him in an arm triangle and time ran out. And they gave him the decision, which was, I was like, all right, whatever, cool. I mean, he didn't really do any damage, but we'll just say he fucking won. I've had a lot of these close fights. The Nick Urso fight too, that one kind of always left a bad taste in my mouth, because with Nick Urso, like I was covering up and they just stopped it. Like I was still reacting, like they just stopped it. And that one, I'll give it to him. Like I'll give him that one. The only fighter I ever feel really beat me was Jerome Rivera. That's the only defeat that I'm really ever gonna admit to. That fight, I gave it my all, ended up in the hospital. One time I ended up in the hospital was with Jerome Rivera. Everybody else, in my mind, they didn't beat me.
Where did you look at these last 2 fights and feel that you needed to improve? Was it saying, just, I have to get the finish? That's what it comes down to?
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. I just need to get the finish, I mean, I'm not going to start taking, like, lower-level fighters so I can get the finish. Heck no, I got to push myself a lot more than I have in the past, and, I have to do something that I haven't done before, which is, maybe move to a better camp.
Win or lose, has there been pride in your record saying you haven't backed down for a challenge and you've taken on all-comers, high-level guys who's ever been offered to you, hometown guys?
Yes. Yeah, there is pride in that. I mean, not everybody has fought the guys that I fought and can fight the fighters that I've been offered, So, I mean, I think you would agree too. Joey Sanchez, Jerome Rivera, and now Demasio Page. These are all tough guys, on top of Gene Perez and even Tim Sosa,
Yeah, wins that you have on there: Tim Sosa, Matt Betholds, Johnny Guillen, Gene Pettis, as you mentioned. I don't know if people actually understand how good some of these guys are that you've defeated.
Yeah, I mean, like I give credit to all the guys that I fight. Like I go out there and like I'm really trying to hurt them. And if they come out clean or unscathed, or they win, whatever, like that's. I mean, I commend them for it, because I really am trying to take their heads off, or, trying to break an arm, or, Tim Sosa, I broke his foot. The first round. Dude would not give up, and I kept toe stamping him, and, I did so many things to him, like, he can't even, like, in one of his interviews, he says he's can't even, he's got to buy one shoe size bigger on the other size or something like that, but Tim Sosa's that dude's a tough dude, and I felt that foot break.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you felt that there's also an error of respect that you've gotten? Because even though you've been the opponent in a lot of these fights, you're getting put in some big fights. Coming back out here again, Albuquerque, JacksonWInk Fight Night 2. You're the main event of Fight Night 1 and Fight Night 2. So do you feel you're getting put at least in a big position?
Yeah, no, most definitely. You know, like, especially when it comes to Albuquerque, you know, like, I've got, like, it's hard. It's hard for me to really, like, stay upset at even the commission and some of those promoters out there, because they really do help me out, you know, like, if it wasn't for Albuquerque, who would I be fighting, you know? Like, all my rivals are in Albuquerque, and, you know, I respect them for that, you know? Albuquerque's made me who I am, so I'll always be grateful for that.
What kind of fight do you expect coming up here on the first from Damasio Page?
A war. I'm expecting a war. I mean, I've never shied away from a fight, and I like to move forward, and he likes to move forward as well. So I think that's a great matchup, you know. As a fighter, I'm not going to go as far and say I don't mind losing. Of course, no fighter likes to lose. But if you get finished, you get finished, you know? And I'm looking for the finish, and I'm looking for somebody who's going to be looking for the finish as well. It takes two to fight, you know? So I'm hoping Damasio comes in like he always has and is ready to fight.
What was your initial reactions from getting offered a name, a veteran such well known as Damasio?
Excited. I was excited. I was happy.
From El Paso, growing up here in the Southwest, had Damasio, another one of those old school WEC guys, had that been somebody that you'd really studied as a young fighter?
Yes. Yes, I've been watching him. I've been following him since his WEC days. So, yeah, Damasio's a dude's a stud when it comes to fighting, you know? He's very entertaining. He's a go-getter for sure. And, you know, I respect him for it.
Is this almost a dream fight for you come true?
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that. I've always been a fan of his style. I've always, I always dreamed of fighting him, and now it's happening, you know?
What do you think is going to be the biggest advantage that you have in this fight?
I feel like I'm more technical everywhere. I think Damasio's a brawler, and that's about it. That's what I think about his style. I just think he likes to brawl. It's not technical at all.
What will this more prove to you about yourself? You're able to walk away with this victory against a guy, again, like Damasio, that's been and done, seen so much.
I mean, I don't think I'd be proving anything that I already know, you know? Like, I feel like I should be fighting these high-level guys. I've always felt that way, you know? I'm excited for the opportunity, but win or lose, my opinion about, like, what I should be doing and me as a fighter probably won't change. I mean, you have to believe in yourself before you get others to believe in you. So, you know, I've always had a strong belief in myself, and it'll make no difference. The results make no difference.
Why do you fight? Why is this your journey?
It's something I like to do ever since I was a kid. You know, it was kind of funny when I was a kid. I got good grades. I never really got in trouble outside of fighting. You know, one time I would get in trouble was because some new kid would come into school, and then some other kids would be like, "Oh, this guy's the toughest kid in the block now." I'd be like, "No." And I'd go over there. I wouldn't even say anything. I'd just punch the dude and then start fighting from there. You know, that's like first, second grade. they had me going to counselors, and counselors like, no, well, he's a good kid. All he needs is a contact sport. And ever since then, I've been in wrestling, and I've loved it. I've never gotten in trouble with the law or haven't gotten in trouble since then. Ever since I was a kid, I just love to fight.
Fighting and fighting the legal way has been a way for you to channel that needed aggression to get out?
I guess so. You can say that.
It's been your outlet.
It has. It really has. It's like my therapy.
Has this always been your focus, the thought since you started doing this, that you wanted to go professional with competing with fighting?
Yes. Like I said, I've always wanted to fight the best. And the only way you're going to fight the best is by going pro. You're not going to be fighting world champions at an amateur level. So going pro was something I've always wanted to do.
How much has testing yourself always been, I guess, a focus for you?
It's been a huge focus because it's like when you go out in a fight, you shouldn't fight for anybody else other than yourself. And I like to fight these high-level guys because it tells me where I'm at. It tells me what I need to work on. It just lets me know that what I'm doing is working, or what I need to do. Like, for instance, last time I fought Jovi, I thought it was a super close fight. Close fight. I still feel like I won it, but I felt like any little thing that, had I changed a couple of other things, the results would have been, maybe the outcome would have come out a little differently, and that stings. That stings as a fighter. You wake up and you think about it and you're like, oh, I don't want to feel like that anymore. I want to just go out to a camp and just know I've done everything possible to win, So this time around, I went out to a prestigious camp. I went out to your out of favors because it was like a dream come true to me. And I'm not gonna give myself that excuse. Just want to see how I do and see where I go from here.
How much of a confidence boost has this day in and day out training with the high caliber guys been for you?
I don't think I can answer that accurately. Yeah, it's boosted my confidence a whole lot. I've always been confident, but this is just, I don't know. I feel unstoppable.
Was there how easy was it to acclimate yourself in with these different camps? Having been from the system you'd been in for so long, was it an easy transition?
It was. It was an easy transition because it's like, I'm not new to the sport. I knew I was going to have to come in to this new team and then, kind of like prove myself. First couple of days of sparring were a little rough, but after that, I started adapting a lot better. I feel like I'm at home right here. I had to prove myself basically, or so I felt. I was excited though the entire time. It was like you go into a new team, nobody knows who you are. You kind of have to make a name for yourself. Like, the thrill of that alone it excites me. It's what fuels me. That's why I take these fights. I love the thrill, but even the agony, there is no thrill without the agony of defeat. You lose and you're just not the same until you get that win. And right now I'm looking for that win.
Hungry for that win. What will it mean to defeat a Demasio Page to get that big name on your record?
It'll mean that I'm ready to fight these top-notch fighters. I want, after Demasio, when I beat him, I want another big name so I can add him to the list. I want to fight the best. Always wanted to fight the best.
Jesus Urbina growing a resume with top contenders on it. See him this weekend in action is Letta Resort and Casino, JacksonWInk Fight Night 2 against Damasio Page. Do you have a last thought for the fans, a last comment for them as to why they need to be in attendance this Saturday or this Friday? This Friday. I almost said Saturday several times. Friday.
Well, if you're a fan of the sport and you like to see two guys just go at it without any filling out process, and you're a fan of the violence, then I suggest you tune in because it's gonna be a great fight. It's gonna be a really good fight.
Look forward to seeing you this week. Jesus, thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you.
Not just a big night for Albuquerque because of the JacksonWInk Fight Night at Isleta, but also because of the Tough 26 finale, a champion to be crowned. Nico Montano of Fit NHB is in the finals to fight for that first ever women's flyweight title. We don't know yet if it's going to be Shadara Eubanks or if it's going to be Roxanne Modafferi, but with the way this tournament's been going, I'm going to take the underdog and go with Shadara Eubanks against Nico Montano. So we'll end up with the number 12 versus number 14 seeded fighters from the 16-woman tournament. Obviously going to go with Nico here in this situation. Love her striking. We have yet to see her leg kicks. Now, I saw a grappler throughout her amateur run who has really blossomed into a complete fighter. It'll be an interesting fight with the power that Eubanks possesses, but I believe in the longer fight with the will, the heart, Nico Montano will become the first women's UFC flyweight champion. It's going to be a fun card. Also on there, you have Andrew Sanchez versus Ryan Gaines. Sanchez, who's been getting more acclimated with using his hands, using his feet, throwing crazy spinning techniques, a sound grappler. I like him against the Canadian. Joe Soto takes on undefeated Brett Johns. The Welshman is undefeated. This is the toughest task of his career. Will he get that lesson learned from a much more experienced fighter? Soto, good hands. First ever Bellator bantamweight champion, I believe. And also has shown off really good jiu-jitsu skills with EBI. Respected on the ground. Johns comes in undefeated. I think Soto, though, probably is the favorite. Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, Sean O'Malley coming out to put on a show. That kid has a lot of flash, taking on Terrion Ware, and I like O'Malley to be able to put on a show. That is Friday night with the UFC. You also have Friday a couple other events going on, actually. As I said, this was a huge packed weekend. Glory, the world's top kickboxing organization, brings Glory 48 to New York. The main event, Kevin Vanderstrode, who's 12-1 actually, taking on Arnav Boynazarov. Over 100 fights on his record, 91, 23, and 2. Obviously, New York's own Van Nostrand is the underdog, but packs a lot of punch in his kicks. Packs a lot of pop in his kicks. That was a tongue twister for me. Now, also on the main card, you have a 4-man middleweight tournament. Wade Barrett, Robert Thomas, and Mike Laramie, all Glory vets that we've seen. Also seen them on Lion Fights. A tough tournament to come up. Now, in the Super Fight Series, the main event of the UFC Fight Pass Super Fight Series is the women's super strawweight title on the line. Tiffany Van Soest, 18-1 against Anastasia McSennan, who is 93-6. This is going to be a high level technical duel. The co-main event, UFC vet Chris Camozzi makes his Glory debut against Kay Woodrick, who is 8-1. You also have a lightweight bout with Elvis Gashi, who's undefeated at 19-0, taking on Nate Robinson, 11-2. And boy, does Nate pack some wallop in his kicks. Friday in San Antonio, Texas, Combate Americas. If you have Azteca, Combate 19. Their main event, Kyra Barata versus Pauline Garandos, fight to earn a title shot. The winner meets Elizabeth Lopez Silva in February. The co-main event, Andreas Quintana versus Ray Trujillo. Quintana, we have an interview up with him at CageMinds.com. Very technical with his boxing basics. A young man that grew up boxing. Hard knees in the clinch. And a whole host of skills that we have yet to see put to live action. Ray Trujillo, a battle-tested vet who is been all around the Southwest scene. Good skills with his offense and his defense. Has won over 20 fights, but has nearly lost just as many. A tough veteran test for Quintana, seeing if he can earn a Combate's title shot. Talking about titles on the line, you also have Friday Bellator at the WinStar World Casino in Thackerville, Oklahoma. Julia the Jewel Budd defends the featherweight title for the first time against Arlene Blenko. Blenko on a 3-fight win streak will look to stop Budd, who is on an 8-fight win streak. These two met back at Bellator 162, with Budd taking a majority decision win from Blenko. Blenko, since that fight, has went on the 3-fight win streak, coming off of a split decision win at Bellator 182 over Sydney Kavanaugh. This is going to be a striking matchup. The takedowns of Budd, I think her power in the clinch could be the deciding factor. The co-main event, Chris Honeycutt, the Josh Koscheck protege, who's on a 4-fight win streak, coming off of a knockout over Kevin Casey, takes on undefeated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace, American Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace, Rafael Lovato Jr., who's 6-0, 4 submissions, 2 knockouts, coming off of submitting Mike Biggie Rhodes in the Bellator cage. You also have on that Bellator card heavy-handed UFC vet Sam Sicilia, also an Ultimate Fighter vet, taking on former Bellator bantamweight champion Marcos Goval. Goval swings wild, but packs some wallop in those punches and is submission savvy with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but I don't feel that he's really a featherweight. Cecilia has the advantage in that one. Adam Piccolotti, looking to rebound from the first loss of his career, being submitted by Goichi Yamauchi, is going to take on short notice, David Rickles, who's replacing Derek Anderson. Rickles, the caveman, we know he can brawl, we know he can wrestle. The man strength that he has, I think, gives him the advantage, not to mention his experience over Piccolotti. But Piccolotti has been through some gym wars that have given him some teeth in this sport that none of us can know about what happens in that American Kickboxing Academy gym. So it's a huge night of action Friday night. Joining me next, we got Clovis's favorite fighter, Harvey PArk. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm pumped. It's fight week. Looking forward to Friday night. Great card lined up. You're in action. Thankfully, you got an opponent. There's been a couple changes I've heard. How's this camp and all this random stuff going on with it been for you?
Ooh, well, camp's been great. Training's great. Great shape. My new opponent is a completely different style than the last. So, it kind of sucks to get him on 2 weeks because we would have been more focused on wrestling and cage defense and wall walks and fighting off our back. But luckily, I can do all that anyway. So we just didn't get it as sharp as we would have, but it's not a big deal.
And I can tell you, Jonathan Gary, legitimately injured, should not have been fighting you.
Oh, yeah. I heard he popped his knee out. No big deal. that happens in the fight world, and I'm not turning any fights down, so I just took the fight. I don't care.
Was there just a sense of relief finding out that they did find an opponent, somebody was willing to step up and take you on?
Well, see, I don't know how long Jonathan's been injured, because they told me the same day, they told us he was hurt and had an opponent in the same conversation. So if he was injured and they had to search hard for it, our camp didn't know. They didn't tell us until they had a backup. So they called and said, hey, Jonathan Gary's knee's hurt. Okay, you want to fight this guy? And they called my manager, Eric Swan. So maybe Eric, did a little psychology on me too and didn't want me to have to worry about opponents. So whoever was taking care of it, handled it that way. So I didn't know the guy was out till, I didn't know the guy was out. And then as soon as I did, they told me, oh, we got another opponent for you. So I don't know how long he was hurt or how long they were searching, but to me it was like a 30-second window of no opponent.
Well, so it was about 2 weeks ago, you said?
Yeah, I want to say 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. I think it put us right at 2.5 weeks of training for him.
I'm not sure how long the injury, but from what I do know is that they both do train in the same classes. So it might have been, oh shit, he's down. Anybody? And somebody raised their hand. Might have been that simple, who knows?
The fight world, people are trying to get ahead, and it's not uncommon, like if someone gets injured, like Dan Hindo and Jones, Henderson got injured against Jones, and Chael Sonnen stepped in, but a lot of speculation was, oh, Hindo's been injured for weeks, and Chael knew he was stepping in. He's been training for John for 5 weeks, and then they announce it and give John 2 weeks to prepare, because you kind of want to make your training centric to what your guy's style is. So, that happens too, which, it's just part of the game.
It's part of the game. So how much do you feel you're learning about the game as time goes on?
Oh, well, I'm approaching 20 fights. I did 9 amateur, and this will be my 10th professional. And so I've got a lot of fights in, a lot of fight camps, and the management and the outside the cage stuff, I don't mess with that. I've had Eric for my whole career, and he takes care of me and he books my fights. So I don't even, in that aspect, I don't even worry about that. All I do is train and come fight. Lately, last so many fights, we've had quite a few opponent switches, but it's only been bad the last 4 or 5 fights.
And also that coincides with making a name for yourself, being on the win streak, right?
Yeah, I mean, the more I win, the better the guys are. Things happen. The higher the levels you get, I think the more things happen. Especially in amateur in the beginning of your pro career, people ain't getting injured because they ain't training like professionals. They might just be, doing an hour of work a day. But when you start to get to this level, we're pushing ourselves to the limit, and sometimes some guys just push a little too hard, or their training partners are better, and so things happen more at this level.
Coming off of the win over Corvo, where did you look and feel that you still needed to improve? What did you want to improve after that fight?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, we worked a lot of wrestling, and the same formula. I didn't have one thing. I was like, man, I really wish I'd have did this better. I just, everything. Try and practice everything. I want to get better at everything. Came back to camp and was like, man, this is the one thing you have to do. It was like always, get better at everything.
The 6-fight win streak, does frustration start to build that you guys aren't getting the opportunities that you're necessarily looking for?
Oh, well, I feel like it's more about who you know than how good you are. Like, that'll get you there faster than your skill. It's who you know. You just got to know the right people. And, I mean, I'm not frustrated, and we're meeting the right people, and the more we win, the more the right people we meet. And if I just keep winning, it's only a matter of time. And then coming from, we kind of Force of One, me and Eric, I fought the first fight from Force of One, and we've built it into the program it is now. So just like we, put some groundwork in for this region, and we've met all the regional promoters, and we know how to get on with most any promotion here. Well, it's going to be the same thing, and I'm going to keep winning. I'm going to meet the big promoters, Bellator, UFC. We're going to meet the names, and then we'll get in good with them, and we can, and the newer fighters will have, their avenues already paved on how to get to the big show.
Kind of sense of pride or responsibility do you feel on being that door or opener?
I don't feel too responsible to those guys, like, to get them to the big show. Like, they keep fighting, they keep winning. I'm grinding away, but I do know it'll help them. Like, it's not like any kind of burden or responsibility to them. But if it's only going to help.
This fight, when the card was first announced, there was a different opponent announced. Were you surprised when the commission did not approve you versus Chris Brown?
I didn't know, man. I thought that if they would put him to the press conference, it was going to work out, so I didn't think anything of it. And then Eric told me, hey, I don't think they're going to approve it. And then sure enough, a couple days later, they didn't approve it. And, I completely forgot about Chris. Like, as soon as his name wasn't my opponent and they switched it to Gary, I didn't think about him one more time. And then as soon as they switched it again, I haven't thought about my old opponent. Like, what I thought when they booked me and Chris was I just thought he must be, good. He's got to be good. Jackson and, JacksonWInk, they know what they're doing, and they must think he's ready. So I'm not going to, he's got his pro debut, but that don't mean I'm going to underestimate him. I'm going to respect, what comes with having Winklejohn and Greg Jackson as your coach. Like, he must be good. So, they think he's next. They're trying to push him, so he's got to be good.
What happened before Jackson's MMA Series 23?
Oh, with Josh?
Yeah, with Josh Moreno. I got people running up to me. Micah, they're yelling at each other in the hallway. What? Who? What?
Well, I don't even know who Josh Moreno is. Like, I know his name now because he freaking started a confrontation with me, but at the time I didn't know who he was, and he just came up to me, and I thought he was some guy, and I just tried to shake his hand, and then he went to stick his hand out, and I was like, who is this? The promoter, Heather, told me this is Josh, and he's like, saying he wants to fight me. I'm like, well, come on, let's meet at 55. His ass can't make 55. He can't even make 70. He's a 185-pound fighter. And he said, no, let's meet at 70. Just through some rumor mill, fighters talk. I don't think he can even make 70. He was supposed to fight main event 170 on that card, but he had to pull out for a knee injury. Well, I mean, I don't know how bad that knee was injured walking around, but so I don't know. He wants to fight me, and that's what happens too with winning fights and being on the doorstep. People want to fight you. Even 185 pounders want to fight me. So I thought it was good fun, and some people got to hear my name, and it was pretty funny.
So a situation like that, does a smile creep across your face?
Yeah, I was smiling, and it's funny. I thought, okay, well, this guy wants to, but no, it was a planned thing. He had his friend record it. He tried to, do whatever he told Nick Gonzalez, hey, record this, and I don't know. So it was, he was trying to stage something, or I don't know. Maybe I'm getting bigger than I think if people want to, record confrontations with me.
Confrontation happens. Heather tells me nothing happens, and thank God nobody got it on video. A couple hours later, there it is on Facebook. Heather, somebody got it on video.
Yeah, it's funny.
All good, all fun. What do you do now? Is it just as simple as keep winning? That's all you can do to try to get more attention?
Yeah, same as last time. I told you, you just got to win. I got to get a highlight reel, knock some guys out, maybe some flashy submissions. I feel like it's either you got to talk your way in or you're going to have to win like that. And I'm not trying to talk my way in, so I just got to keep winning, and I got to do it impressively.
Each fight's more experience. How do you feel the more experience is changing you and shaping your game?
Well, the more you fight, like you said, more experience. I don't know. Every fight, fight week's easier. Your nerves are a little better. The day of the fight, you feel a little better. I mean, always, you start to warm up. You start to get your anxiety. But I just feel like it's less of that. You got a less of a window of being nervous and having anxiety, and more, having your brain on and being more cerebral, which is, that's the way I want to fight. So as long as it's kind of get that out of the way, and the more experience, the less there is in that.
And just for people that are listening, in case you think we're skating around who Harvey's fighting, he's a 10-1 French wrestler training at the JacksonWInk Academy, and you spell his name Majdayadi. I don't speak French, and I would totally muck that up if I said it, but 2 weeks to prepare. He's from France, MMA is illegal out there. Was there any kind of video studying, or did you go off of the rough that we've all heard he's a wrestler?
He's got a few videos out there, and I watched them, and, we did 2 weeks, not a lot, and so we did a few 3 or 4 wrestling practices, practice some techniques, and I don't know how good a wrestler he is. America definitely has the best wrestling, I feel like, or better than France, I would say. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how good a wrestler he is. I know what he's going to do. I've seen his fights. It's either going to be a boring fight where he's trying to press me against the cage and lay on me, or I'm going to stuff that, and it's going to get real exciting when he has to stand up.
On the win streak, another opportunity, another international foe. So I figured that has to be getting you some recognition. Same excitement as always from you, Harvey, for this one?
Yeah, I'm excited. I've trained hard. Body feels great, man, and I'm ready. Like I told you last time, I'm gonna try. If the opportunity presents itself, I'm gonna go for it. So I might spin. I might do some flying techniques, knees, elbows, spinning kicks. Like I told you, I wanna make a statement. So if the opportunity's there, I'm gonna go for it.
As you've been progressing through this, has your thoughts on competing or why you love to do it, has that changed at all?
Oh no, not at all. I love it. The competition, just the hard work to get to the final, to the fight. I like the road work. I like to do your runs and just get in your own mind. You're the only one on the treadmill or on the street. I like the training. I like the camaraderie, and then the actual fight. I like the test. I like to think. I like to, have that competition. See who's gonna break. I like it all. It's nothing's changed.
A lot of guys looking for that pathway to the next level. What separates Harvey PArk and makes you the must-see guy?
The reason you gotta come watch me is I could beat anyone in the world. Like, I got all the skill sets, and I got the, and then I can think, man. I'm cerebral. I got the skills. I'm slick. I can beat anyone in the world, and I have a feeling, a couple of years, people are gonna find out, and you might be surprised coming small gym, not as many people, but it's gonna happen, and people are gonna find out.
Harvey PArk sounds ready. It's fight week this Friday, JacksonWInk Fight Night 2 at his Letter Resort and Casino. Sir, can't wait to see you this week. Thank you for joining me.
All right, thank you.
as we continue to talk about and preview this Friday's JacksonWInk Fight Night 2, we'll turn our attentions to the amateur side of the card, where Vaiza is going to take on Vic Masaeva. Ray, thanks for joining me right now. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
This is a fight, you and Vic, I believe it had been brought up and talked about, speculated about a couple times now, right?
Yeah, it's been a fight in the making, and it's finally going to happen now, and I'm just can't wait for it to happen, you know?
So give us a number. How many times had this fight been kind of thought of being put together? How many times had this been thrown out there? 2, 3 times?
Well, back in 2014, I had got offered to fight him, but I really wasn't training, so I wasn't going to go fight, you know? But this year, we were going to fight here in my hometown, and it just never went down. So now we got this one, so this is the third time, and it's already settled down. It's signed and dated, so this Friday, we're ready to go.
This Friday, what kind of camp have you been put together? I believe this one's still training in your hometown of Socorro.
Yeah, I've been training here in town. I got my boy Enrique Robles. He's going to be fighting on that card too as well. He's a real tough guy, man. He's been pushing me. We just been working a lot of cardio, just a lot of everything, you know, touch basing with everything, you know. My last fight, you know, I lost by submission, so we've been working a lot of submission defense, so we're ready for whatever, you know what I mean?
What do you think's going to be your biggest advantage heading into this fight with Vic?
I have more experience in him. I've been in this since I was 13 years old. You know what I mean? I have a kickboxing, boxing, grappling background. You know, and then my height advantage. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try to use that to my advantage.
Vic, I believe, has been on the shelf for a while, and this is the fight that has got him back into training, as far as I know. The fight that's got him back into competing. Does that give you a little extra edge that you were the one that brought him back into this?
I have all respect for this guy. You know what I mean? He stepped in, and he got in shape. You know what I mean? I've seen pictures of him. You know, he looks good. He looks ready to go. So that's what I want. I want the best Vic Masaeva to fight me. You know what I mean? But yeah, I do have the edge. I think I do have the edge in this fight.
Now, what were your thoughts coming off of that last fight? I know you said it was the ground game. You got submitted. What were some other thoughts from last fight?
I came out. I don't know. I just came out, and I guess I kind of froze, and I shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? I've had that phase whenever I first started fighting. I would freeze, and I just need to listen and just have fun with it. You know what I mean? Have more fun, and then be. You know what I mean? Just gotta have more fun about it.
Well, how do you get around those nerves popping up? How do you get around those?
I just surround myself with the best people I can, you know, people that are going to have the same goals as me and want to commit to my success, you know what I mean?
Has there been anything new that you've done with this training camp? Anything new, anything you've changed up, anything that you've done differently to fix up holes, to share up just your process of getting ready for the fight?
Yeah, you know what I mean. I would work out twice a day. I've been working out 3 times a day now. I've been working out with some crazy ass, I'm gonna call it ninja stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, something crazy is gonna happen this Friday. You know what I mean? It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
This Friday, out at Isleta, what kind of crowd are you expecting to bring in?
What was that?
What kind of crowd are you expecting to bring in with you?
Oh, this crowd, man, I'm bringing a big crowd from this hometown that I live in Socorro, so it's going to get real rowdy, and I'm going to be walking out to Spanish music, get everyone going crazy.
What does that do for you, the having the crowd and having that vibe going in the night? How does that play for you?
It just makes me feel good because I have all my loved ones there, and they're there to support, you know what I mean? It's a blessing, and I'm very blessed.
Now, as you said, you've had a lot of experience, and that's one of those advantages that you have going into this fight over Vic. What's some of those lessons that you've learned that are invaluable, that you could explain to us, but it's something you have to go through to really know?
Can you say it again? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What are some of those lessons you've learned that your experience will be an advantage? Some of these lessons that you've learned in cage, having the experience advantage.
Like, I'll take that fight when I fought in Phoenix. I fought a real tough guy named Daniel Peru. I mean, this guy's UFC bound. And I learned that you just need to be calm and just pick your punches. Don't overthink, you know what I mean? Don't overthink stuff. Because in that fight, I caught him with an overhand right, and I just got too excited, and I just didn't think, and you know what I mean? I lost the fight. That was the very first fight I lost by TKO, and I learned that just don't overthink stuff.
As an amateur, what does it mean to you sitting up there, being at a podium as you were at the press conference to announce this event with a Holly Holm, with Cody East, with Demasio Page, being even in the amateur ranks, but still taking in these experiences? What does that mean to you, and what's that like?
Well, it just means so much to me because I look up to all these guys since I was a little kid, you know what I mean? When I got into the sport, I looked up to Demasio, I looked up to Holly, I looked up to Diego, John Jones, you know what I mean? All of them guys. I'm blessed, you know what I mean? This life is it's a blessing, you know what I mean?
Is it a little breathtaking still, like something like that, being in the scenario of being at a press conference with these stars while you're still in your amateur phase?
Can you say it again, man? I'm sorry.
Is it a little surreal being at a press conference with some of these veterans, these stars, while you're still in your amateur run?
Oh, yeah, man, it's crazy, man. I sometimes think, like, what am I going to say or what am I going to do, you know what I mean? I walk up to them and, like, they talk to me like they know me their whole lives, you know what I mean? They give me good love and respect, you know what I mean? And it's just, like I said, it's a blessing.
What are some goals for you in this fight to accomplish?
I'm trying to get my name out there, man. It's a big, you know what I mean? It's a big event. It's under a big promotion. I'm 1-0 in the promotion, so I'm just trying to get my name out there. I'm gonna turn pro next year for sure. I know that. I'm just trying to make my name out there. You know what I mean?
Coming from Socorro, representing that little town, tell us what it was like growing up there.
Man, growing up in Socorro, man, it was good, man. Everyone in this town, and when they see someone succeed, man, they have all the love and support towards you. You know what I mean? It's great. And growing up here, being an athlete, playing football, basketball, and track, it was great. I love my town. You know.
How has that community, that town, kind of molded who you are?
What was that?
How has that community, that town, molded who you are?
Well, I've done most of my training here, and I became the fighter I am today because of this town and who I was involved with. You know, we had a team back in the day, Team Soco Loco, and we were taking over teams, you know, and that's the reason why I'm the fighter I am today.
Tell us about motivation. What's your motivation in this fight?
Like, I don't know, man, just every fight is I'm motivated, you know what I mean? Every fight, I think it's my last, you know what I mean? I'm going to treat it like it's my last fight of my career. You know, I'm just going to lay it all on the line, and you're going to get the best of me always, you know, every time I fight.
It's Friday night. How do you get that win?
Man, I want to really get this knockout, man. I haven't had a knockout on my record yet, all submissions, but and a decision win, but I need to get a freaking knockout already. But we'll see what happens, you know, if we go all 3 freaking rounds and it being a war, it's going to be a war. If I get the submission, I get the submission, but I do want that knockout. I need it.
Do you got a message for the fans?
Just thank you all fans, man. I really appreciate every single one of you. Family, friends, you know. I got to thank Edwin at MAC-10, man. I really appreciate you so much, man. You send me gear, you send me banners, you send me shirts, hats. Just appreciate you, man. And then thank you, CageMinds.com. Thank you, Doris. Thank you, Frescas. Thank you, Sal Gomez. Just thank you, everyone, man. I appreciate everyone.
This Friday night, again, JacksonWInk Fight Night 2 is at a resort and casino. Join us out there for a live night of fights. The JacksonWInk Fight Night 2 card is stacked. The main event, the flyweights. You heard from Jesus Urbina earlier. Demasio Page, I'm sure he's going to be looking for the overhands, for his big punching power. Can Urbina show enough on the feet and cause a takedown? Will he be able to get this fight to the ground? His jiu-jitsu, I believe, is at a more fluently trained level right now than Damasio, where they both have great basics. It's going to be a fun fight. If it stays standing, don't count Urbina out, but know that Page does have that big power advantage that anything can happen at any time. Harvey PArk, as we talk to him, short notice replacement. The Frenchman, who I don't want to murder his name, is a wrestler. PArk should have the advantage if he is fully able to keep this one standing. You have the heavyweights, Cody East, Tony Lopez. East, with the more refined hands, has trained with boxing coaches as of recently, is coming off of the kickboxing title win, has had success in the boxing ring, and has said he has learned his lessons from the UFC. Lopez, battle-tested, has fought everybody. The guy can strike, the guy can grapple, he's been tested. Maurice Jackson hits, he is heavy-handed. He's taking on Andrew Capel. Capel, Muay Thai experience, this one should be a striking affair. Wilfredo Santiago Jr., the Brown Bomber, again, another guy with big power out of this JacksonWInk camp, taking on Omar Acosta. Acosta with a Diaz-type boxing style and a good ground game, but not the offensive wrestler. Chris Brown making his pro debut against Brandon Trujillo. Trujillo, a striker by trade. Brown, we've seen him strike and we've seen him grapple. This is a fun card. Keep your eyes posted for the coverage that we're going to have all week long. Saturday night, you have UFC 218. The UFC is in Detroit, the Little Caesars Arena, with a really fun card coming up. Jose Aldo looking to retain the featherweight title, taking on Max Holloway. I don't think on short notice that Aldo can close the gap on Holloway. Aldo has got to use his leg kicks. There's a lot of mistakes he made in that first fight, and I don't know if he can close the gap this quickly. The body punching, the picking your shots, the being diverse in those shots. Holloway seems to be a step ahead, a universe ahead in the theology of striking. Max Holloway looks to make his first title defense, and I believe he is a big favorite coming into this bout with Jose Aldo. The co-main event, Francis Ngannou, Alistair Overeem. I'm on the hype train. Overeem is a battle-tested vet with a lot of tricks up his sleeve. But to this point in his career, Ngannou has met and exceeded every expectation, has passed every test with flying colors. I expect him to do the same. Ngannou versus Miocic, the heavyweight title fight that I can't wait to see. This main card is as stacked as any pay-per-view has been outside of UFC 217. You got Henry Cejudo versus Sergio Pettis, who both look phenomenal in their last fights. Cejudo with the finish, the full performance from Pettis in Mexico City against Brandon Moreno. I can't wait for that flyweight fight. The tough coaches meet on this pay-per-view main card where you got Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez. One day Justin Gaethje's going to get knocked out, but I think he still has more of a chin than Eddie Alvarez. That fight could be fight of the night. The main card gets kicked off with the karate stylist battle. The strawweights, Michelle Watterson versus Tisha Torres. Stylistically, I love this fight. Whoever can get the crucial takedowns, because you know Torres will be looking for them, may win this fight. Can Watterson get the submission off her back if she's put on the ground? Because I'm sure Torres is going to be looking for it. Fun fight to kick off the pay-per-view card. The FS1 prelims are headlined by Paul Felder, and as much as he's good on the mic and good in the commentary booth, I am really happy to see that he's going to be in the cage doing what he really excels at, in the right frame of mind, in an attacking skill set. Paul Felder puts together some great fights. On short notice, Charles Oliveira. The guy can box. His Muay Thai is his best attribute, but he gets hit too much. The danger here is that submissions can fly out of anywhere from Oliveira, like Felder in that one. Welterweights battle on the prelims, and you got Yancy Medeiros, the Max Holloway teammate, against the Brazilian cowboy Alex Oliveira. That is going to be a fun one. They mimic each other. Oliveira, I feel, has been on a slightly hotter streak. And these are, again, two examples of why we need a 165-pound division. You have David Taymor, incredible striking, taking on Degar Close, who is a MMA Lab Benson Henderson product, who has put together a great skill set, really pressures guys and breaks them. In the women's strawweight division, 3 of those fights, the second one that we're going to talk about, you have Felice Herrig versus Courtney Cast Iron Casey. Casey, the UFC thinks a lot of her. They've been giving her a lot of big fights. Herrig has shown a tremendous evolution and improvement in her skills. The veteran, who's started off as a Muay Thai fighter and has really shown an improvement in her BJJ. The winner of this fight, definitely in the top 10 of the women's strawweight division. Talking about the women's strawweight division, the other fight that they have on the card, Amanda Bobby Cooper versus Angela Magana. Magana, not liked much by the internet, and Amanda Bobby Cooper comes in as a favorite boxing. But Magana, the more well-rounded fighter, if this hits the ground, has a submission advantage. In a fight where they're just going to throw hands at each other, Sabah Mahasi is going to meet Rezak Al-Hassan, who can rebound from their recent loss. First, I believe the winner will win by knockout. Undefeated Dominic Reyes is going to take on Jeremy Kimball. Reyes is undefeated, and I look for the young man to put on another show. I think it's going to be a second-round stoppage. Kimball is a tough dude, but I don't know if he's a real light heavyweight. Heavyweights kick off this card, and you got to wonder if Justin Willis will be able to pull out the takedowns needed against Alan Crowder, who is a big, heavy hitter. UFC 218, a very intriguing Fight Pass prelim card. FS1 prelims are solid, and that pay-per-view main card, I believe, is as good as any that we've seen, again, outside of UFC 217. I'm looking forward to Saturday night. And then I said there were 7 events. We've talked about 6 of them. Sunday, King of the Cage Conquistadors, the Citizen Bank Arena in Burbank, California. Juan Archuleta, the 4-division, that's yes, 4-division King of the Cage world champion, defends his title in the main event against tricky Mark Dickman, who will be looking to try to get this fight to the ground. The co-main event, Stephanie Frosto defending the King of the Cage women's strawweight title against Cynthia Sin Arceo. Go to CageMinds.com, Cage Minds MMA show on YouTube. We have an interview up with King of the Cage Conquistadors, Cynthia Sin Arceo. We recently talked with this past week and got the interview up with Andres Cebolla Quintana from Combates 19. A whole host of interviews from JacksonWInk Fight Night 2. Again, join us out there Friday night, December 1st at the Isleta Resort and Casino. Keep up. This has been Cage Minds Uncensored. Thanks for listening.